Welcome to RodneyABrooks.com. Today we're talking with Nick Abrams, who is a certified financial planner, and he is president of Opulentia.
Yeah.
You're based in Baltimore or?
Hunt Valley, north of Baltimore.
Hunt Valley, North. So we're going to talk today about financial advice for young people,
Okay.
especially millennials and Gen Xers. So let's start. Okay, so I know you have millennials as clients. So what kind of advice do you give them that's different from let's say Gen Xers
Or the boomers.
or the boomers?
All
Yes.
right. Good question, Rodney. So thank you so much for having me on. Each generation is different, and what we've learned, especially coming out of the pandemic, that life is very precious, and we've seen people. We look at millennials; they've seen their parents go through the Great Recession and other financial setbacks, so the thinking is a little different. It's really about the experience. They want to experience life. They want to enjoy life. And so when we give advice to them, we have to take that into account. When we talk to boomers and other generations, the advice was put all your money in your 401k plan. When you're 59 and a half, you'll have a lot of money there and have a successful retirement. The younger generations, they don't want to hear that so much. And so you have to look at, you have to kind of judge putting some money in your retirement plan, but also they want money available for other investments. They want to be liquid. They want to be able to move and invest in their friends doing a startup. They want to be able to invest in that, real estate and other options. So when we're talking to the younger generation, we have to take that into account that they're not going to put all their money into an account and lock it into their 59 and a half. But we still want to show them about investing, maybe setting up a brokerage account, real estate, alternative investments that has some liquidity that they can access when they need it and use that money to make more money.
Okay, good. So you talk about real estate. So let's talk about real estate for a minute. Let's talk about housing. Let's talk about interest rates.
Yes.
Now, those previous generations we're just talking about, as soon as they could afford it, there was usually a recommendation.
Right, buy a house. Right.
How is that? Well, not only do you have a generation who is less likely to buy a house, but you also, in this period where interest rates are higher than people have seen them in years. So what kind of advice were you talking about millennials and Gen Xers do you give them when it comes to buying a house, especially at this time?
So that's interesting. The millennials and Gen Xers are a little later to buy a house. So we're starting to see millennials, who are the older millennials who have families, are jumping into the housing market. The problem with that is there's a shortage of supply. I always tell this story, back in 2006, 7, my wife and I, we were looking at a house. There were plenty of new developments, large communities being built. We looked again in 2020. It was hard to find a new community. So there's a shortage of housing out there, of supply. But we are seeing the older millennials getting into it. The younger ones still want to be free. They want to move. They don't want the responsibility. And once again, in the back of their minds, they remember the housing crisis. And so they don't want to suffer from that. So I think over time, as the Gen Xers and the younger millennials start to have families, they will get into the real estate market. But right now, they're happy renting, and as long as they're happy with that and still investing into something, that's fine.
Okay, so if you were, let's say, three financial tips for that generation, millennials and Gen Zers, or if right off the top of your head, give me 3 tips and tell me why.
First one, I would say keep your debt as low as possible. And I know that's hard with student loans, and that's a whole nother topic. We could probably do another 2 or 3 segments on that alone. But work on still keeping your debt as low as possible. Have multiple streams of income. Cash flow is king right now. As we said, the world of retirement, we've turned that upside down. The whole notion of just putting money away and letting it sit there for 30, 40 years. For younger generations, it's a different mindset. So either you've got to have money coming in to cover your expenses, and with this high inflation, you're young, you're single, you've got time, get a second or third stream of income in to help maintain lifestyle and even excel your lifestyle.
Okay, before you move on to the next one, okay, what are we talking about with additional streams of income for this generation?
It can be, of course, the gigs. You get a gig, something part-time to work on, start a home business, start some type of business to work on as well. You've got a lot of creative minds out there that have the energy, the technology. You can start an app, sit at home, and you're in business overnight almost. So it's a lot different than when we were there. We had to, go through the whole process, and we thought we had to have the office and all that stuff to start a business. So you have a lot of home-based businesses out there now. So really being able to take technology, take the knowledge and experience, and capitalize on that, that's key.
Okay.
I would say the last part of that is really start investing as early as possible. And like I said, start investing into something, whether it's stocks, real estate. If you have a colleague or a friend that's starting a business, invest in that. But you want to get that mindset of having your money work for you, because two things have to happen. Either you work or the money works. Somebody's got to work or something has to work. So really having your money working for you in some type of format as early as possible is key, and don't be afraid to fail.
Okay, let's talk about 401ks for,
Yeah.
for 403, whatever.
Right.
So, as people got older, they started putting more money. My experience was they started putting more money in.
Right.
Are you with the same issue with millennials when it comes to 401k? That do they not want to? Do you encourage them to put the max amount they can into 401ks? What's your advice there?
So what I would say is to be flexible. And once again, for the younger generation, they're not a fan of having their money tied up to 59 and a half. I mean, if you're 30 years old, and we know now, hey, it comes fast, but when you're 25 and 30, you think that's a long time away. What I will say is we always encourage to at least put in whatever your company is matching. So if your company's putting in matching 5%, you want to at least put in 5%. But then have some flexibility to look at investments outside of that. The other thing we look at is the tax implications of the 401k. Because what we're seeing for a lot of boomers now is that great, they've amassed this money in the 401k, they did it on a pre-tax basis, but now they're getting hit with tax penalties, tax liability, and now for the first time, many of them are owing money when they file taxes because, they've got other retirement income coming in, and then they're taking this money out of their retirement accounts that are taxable. So the other advice we give to the younger generation is to look at the Roth or after-tax option in your 401k, 403b, or your retirement account, because that way that money will come out tax-free in the future.
And I always tell people, because I think people forget that 401k or IRA is tax deferred and not
Yes.
tax free.
Yes.
And once they don't think about it, I talked to a financial advisor. Maybe it was you said, Uncle Sam gets his right off the
Yes,
top.
Uncle Sam is always going to get their money. And that's, we were all trained when I came into the business. I've been in the industry 23 years. It was put everything in because you get the tax deduction. And when you get retired, you're going to make less money. So when you pull the money out of these 401k plans, it's not going to be a huge tax hit. What we have seen, though, what we did not talk about is the fact that you also lose your tax deductions. And especially we see for our clients who are fortunate enough to have a pension plan, if they're getting pension and Social Security, they're getting a good income there that's taxable. They go into these retirement accounts to pull out money, and then they have to pay taxes off of that, and that's the shock. And then some of them, it's putting them in a higher tax bracket, and so now all of a sudden they're owing money. And they said, well, I've worked 30, 40 years, I always got a refund. Why now in retirement am I not getting a refund? So those are things that you have to really take into account. And as I said earlier, the landscape of retirement planning has changed like everything else. And I think more advisors are starting to adapt to a new model of planning and what we do for our clients.
Okay, and let's stay on the Roth, especially with the Roth 401k, because coming up, the Roth option was only available for certain income groups.
Yes.
Okay, and now increasingly we're seeing the Roth option available in 401ks.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and that's a good thing?
Excellent thing. Yes, it is. And I'm glad because what you started running into, especially years ago, the income limit was so low that very few people could really take advantage of the Roth. And then plus you're capped on how much you can put in. Whereas in the 401k option, you still have the same limits of a 401k, which are much higher than a Roth IRA. And you don't have that income limit there to hinder people from getting into that.